Imagine scaling a business from pretty much nothing to 30 million in annual revenue in just over a year. Well, that's exactly what today's guest has achieved. So we've got Keiran Hewkin, founder of Swyft, which is a sofa in a box business. He's going to be joining us and talking us through that experience, and honestly, it is absolutely fascinating. And he talks about it in just such a down-to-earth, matter-of-fact way, which is just brilliant. So really hope you enjoy this one. If you do, please do come and subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. If you like it, it really, really does help us out. So please, please go ahead and do that if you enjoy the episode, and hope you do. Here we go. Hey Keiran, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey John, yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. You were saying you're off the back of a LinkedIn Live this morning, so like properly in the zone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, completely in the zone of trying to keep all the numbers, what I can, what I shouldn't say. No, I'm joking. I'm just talking freely. So, but it was good. Yeah, LinkedIn Live was fun actually. You get a little notification when anyone's watching, but we thought only one person watched, but you only get the notification when the first person starts watching. So I spent the whole half an hour just thinking, oh well, it's just the three of us, and actually it went a bit better than that. So probably a
Amazing,
good thing.
amazing. So we're going to talk about Swyft and phenomenal success over the last year and a half, 2 years. Sofa in a box, e-commerce business, and you're on track to do 30 million plus in your second year,
Yeah, that's what we're going for. That's what we're shooting for. Yeah.
which is insane. And I can imagine, like, to go from pretty much square one to that in a couple of years, the amount of learnings, experiences, and everything in between must have just been, yeah, like, wow.
Yeah, it's actually been a long journey and a lot of learnings to get to the point where Swift, even as a concept, was feasible for us, and the way in which we wanted to execute it was, we've been through various iterations of furniture businesses before getting to this spot, which seems to, touch wood, be a bit of a sweet spot at the moment, and the business model itself is good and is helping fuel the growth, and it's one of those scalable. You hear the word scalable thrown around a lot in e-commerce, but you know, with our model at the moment, it does seem to be more scalable than typical upholstered furniture. So yeah, it's been absolutely wild, and yeah, I still have to pinch myself from time to time to remember
I can
where we're
imagine.
at.
But you were saying earlier that actually, like, yeah, you on one hand, people might look at that as a bit of an overnight, really quick success, but actually, it came off the back of a lot of experience, a lot of kind of business experience in the same sector that wasn't quite as smooth. Can you kind of go
Yeah,
into
man,
that? Because
had some absolute disasters. Um, I've made so many mistakes getting to this point. Like my first business that I started myself was a disaster. I spent like all the money I didn't have when I was like 20 on outdoor clothing brands that I was going to sell and change the world. And as a retailer, online retailer, I didn't even know how to build a website. I've still got most of it in my garage, so if anyone wants to buy any now relatively old high-end outdoor clothing, just give me a shout. Still in its packaging. Yeah, that was the start of it, and then I kind of took a break from e-commerce, and I worked in furniture for a long time in the bespoke area, and made to order and high end, and there's so many things that can go wrong there, and you have to build up a really skilled manufacturing base to work in that kind of space. And we also, also was part of a business, high street retailer that unfortunately went into administration this time last year, so that we could pursue Swyft, but also we saw that was part of the industry that was really not scalable and really was challenging, and it was very unique furniture from the Far East, and the supply chain was hard. So it was actually Swyft is much born out of a solution to frustrations and issues that have sunk many of our ships, as it was the customer side. And it was as much a reaction to there must be a way to do furniture properly from a supply chain and a business point of view as it was the customer point of view. I didn't sit there trying to get a sofa into my house, and I don't have a romantic founder story of taking a window out to get a sofa in. It wasn't like that. It was very much a necessity because the other operations weren't going very well.
That must have been pretty tough. Like this time last year, the world was just falling off a cliff anyway. So to have that and have a business go into administration at the same time, like that's pretty rough. Like,
Yeah,
that
it was
must
a
have.
real challenge. It was a real challenge, and from a leadership point of view, having to have those conversations with members of the team over the phone and not in person, remotely. I was actually stuck visiting family in Australia at the time, so it was a middle of the night phone call back to the UK to tell people that unfortunately they'd lost their jobs, and that will stay with me forever from a leadership point of view. I never want to get to that point ever again.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's out of your control. That business wouldn't have survived the pandemic. So, and in hindsight, some members of the team have stayed on with Swyft and they're doing fantastically, and almost everyone that left that business has got great jobs now, and we're still in touch. But it was very hard. It was hard to stay focused on launching Swyft. We had no idea what was going to happen. And again, you can look at it as that overnight success, but we honestly thought this time last year that people would stop buying anything and they wouldn't know where their next paycheck's coming from. And we shut our factory for 8 weeks because we thought people wouldn't want to spend money on sofas, and look how stupid that looks now with hindsight. Like, everyone wants a new sofa. So we definitely didn't get it all right. Far from it.
But I think it's really important to highlight that because I think you see, on the surface you see these success stories and you think, oh wow, that sounds amazing, and how nice. But actually, behind that, often there's so many difficult experiences. I just think it's really important that people get that as well, and I just think it's quite important to showcase that.
Pain's a great teacher, right? And as people, we're motivated to avoid pain far more than we are to go and reach for comfort. We want to avoid pain. That's our kind of primary driver. So we, from a leadership point of view, we went through a lot and we got a lot of things wrong, and we learned. And Swyft is now the result of trying to get those things right and to make them as least painful as possible for our customers, but of course, for ourselves as well. The easier we can make our own business, the better we can be for our customers, and that is proving to have longevity. And now, more people know about us, the more people talk about us, the more people buy from us, and it's a nice self-fulfilling prophecy now. But it was some heavy lifting to get here.
Yeah, my wife last night said, I can't remember what we were talking about. She said the best sailors are made in stormy seas.
Exactly. Especially when you don't have a boat.
Yeah, when the boats fall into pieces. So then on to Swyft and kind of the positives here. So you made that decision, focus 100% on Swyft. What was that next bit like in terms of getting things rolling, getting a team in place? How did that kind of initial bit go when you didn't know what was going to happen?
No, there was pre-launch. So although we launched in January last year, from a sales point of view, there was a pre-launch product development stage, which was 6 months. We started in mid-July 2019, and had a product ready to go to market by the December. So that in itself is quite a quick evolution. So we decided to do that. We took a small team. We broke away from the 2 businesses we were running at the time, myself and 2 others, John O'Leary and James McWalter, so our design director and our head of ecom. And we operated real small. We kept really, really agile. We didn't do anything unless you could finish it within 7 days. That was a nice rule for us. We just focused on small, quick wins that we could do for months at a time. And we really, just kept it to the basics. We didn't let ourselves have more people. We didn't let ourselves have more resource, and that was our way of keeping ourselves honest and making sure that we got it ready. And once it was ready, and we kind of had that boat, if you like, and we initially proved some success. We set ourselves a target of 1 sofa a day in January selling, and we hit that. It was just the next logical step was to transfer more and more of the business's energy over towards it. But it's about setting those goals in advance. So like, try to do that. What we found was it's very easy in the heat of battle in the day to get drawn into doing it and going a bit further and doing a bit more just because you're there. But you need to be like, okay, 3 months out, this is what success looks like from where we're at today. And if we get to that point, we'll then continue and we'll go further and we'll invest more money and time into it. And being really objective there. So we only just made it at certain one of those thresholds, but we did make it.
I love the simplicity of those goals and targets, and let's do 1 sofa a day, and then we'll do more, or let's just pick tasks that we can finish within 7 days. These are really, really simple things and goalposts. It's not kind of, I'm sure there's a lot of data analysis and research and everything as well, but these are like just so simple. Oh,
no, there wasn't. There wasn't any really, because we've been selling furniture for a long time, right? So we knew what styles were going to work. We knew what was a safe bet, if you like. But it was really about initial proof of concept, because the challenge we had to educate the customer that there was a problem in the way they were already buying furniture, and then present them the solution. So we couldn't you can't test whether that works. You've just got to believe it and go for it. So that was the hardest part of convincing people that there was a problem in the normal supply chain that they didn't really realise.
Do you think that kind of avoiding the simplicity or being scared to kind of think about it in such simple terms holds a lot of people back? That they want to overanalyze, they want to over-research, they want to kind of, and then they just never quite end up getting started. Whereas if you pick that simple target of, right, 1 month out I want to be here, then 2 months out I want to be there, really simple terms, do you think it's easier just to jump in?
I think so. In my experience, yes. When I first started my own business in furniture 4 years ago, we set ourselves a goal of having a pipeline of X amount within 3 months, not even a sale. And we set up to be a curtain manufacturer, and I've not sold a single curtain since, but I'm still in business because we hit that goal and we got leads for furniture, not for curtains, and that was okay. And we knew then, by that point we were getting nervous about our salary, our income, but we knew that in the cold light of day, back 3 months ago, we would have bitten your arm off to be where we were then. And that was really important for us, because when you overthink it and think, the mortgage, we've only got 6 months of savings for the mortgage or whatever, that starts to become scary. So trying to set yourself those objective goals. Now, a lot of people work with those objective goals and in that mindset when they're employed by someone, and they break down a task like that, and you ask one of your team to go and do a project, and they break it down very objectively, and they set their milestones, and they go away and they execute. And then for some reason, when what can happen is when your income's on the line and it's your business, you start approaching things in a different manner, more emotionally, and for some reason all the skill sets that worked for you and your boss in the past, you've just abandoned them and start freaking out and overanalyzing it and second guessing yourself, and there's no difference to it.
Yep. Yeah. It's still
you find the same thing, right?
Yeah, I guess to a certain degree, but then it's such a different business. I'm not going out and putting so much capital on the line ahead of time. Like, it's definitely a less scary business model than yours. But yeah, I think it does make things different when it's your money or your neck on the line. I think it just changes the perspective a bit.
Yeah, maybe, but there's nothing more valuable to someone than their reputation and their word, right? So whether it's money or your reputation or your your agreements with people, like that's the stuff that you really want to honour and to fulfil on. So, yes, our initial business was my own savings and investment, but Swyft is venture funded and will probably continue to be for the future. So, but it's no less personal and it's no less risky for me, and from my own
It's
execution
got your
standpoint, I
name
want
on
to
it.
deliver for the team. It's still exactly, it's
Yeah.
still it's not the dollars in the bank account that's sat doing lovely podcasts like this and putting their face on it. So it's always personal.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. And kind of from that first bit, like then kind of what really started to fuel the growth. So obviously product's key. You've got a unique product, it's disruptive, it solves a really clear problem. What sort of marketing activities were you throwing into the mix that really kind of started to grow, I guess, drove that initial demand through the business and start to kind of see that kind of traffic go up?
Initially, we had some good wins, like unaffordable and unsustainable wins on platforms like Google, where we've got very specific answers to certain search terms, like sofas that will fit, or next day sofa, or fast sofas, and we can quite quickly and easily get that value proposition across to a small number of customers to prove that there's a demand for that basic need. And it's logical, really, that there will be people that can't get a normal sofa into their house, and therefore if we can just get in front of them at the right time, we will sell product. But we still had to prove that, and that was the initial success we had. But it wasn't until we flipped the proposition and all the things that were so important to us as furniture designers and makers and people in the business, like next day delivery, assembled in 5 minutes, 100-day guarantee, all of those. It wasn't until we realised that those are nice to have, they're hygiene factors, no one really cares. What people want is the sofa that they want to share on Instagram, the one that they see in adverts, the one that this influencer has, or the one that just looks special. And it wasn't until we started pitching that as the idea, and then using all of our hygiene factors through that conversion funnel, that it started to take off. And we thought we'd be selling to renters, and that it'd be people that are moving a lot that would want our sofas. 82% of our customers own their own home, so it shows what we knew.
That's really interesting.
And that was the big difference. Realising that was the big change for us.
So it's almost like those the hygiene factors as you described them. Once you've got, I guess once you've sold that kind of style, kind of that bigger thing to someone, they then just kind of help to kind of plug the holes in the conversion journey, and settle any maybe remaining objections.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's still a big purchase. It's still the focal point of your living room. You're not going to buy it unless you love it.
Yeah.
And it's remembering that, and just remembering that these customers are, they're people like you and I that see pretty thing and want it. Like I'm the same, with bikes. I'm awful with bikes. I could just buy new bikes because there's no upper limit to the number of bikes that I want to have. I don't have a need for it, but when I do decide I want one, I want it quite quickly, and I want it to be easy, and I want it to have certain perks. And that was remembering it's no different really for sofas. And when you talk to talking to our customers, and they were telling us these things, but we just weren't doing a very good job of listening for a while. We were so internally focused on all the things that we thought made us clever and unique. That
I guess it's so true, isn't it? Like you could, I mean, does it if a sofa can fit through your door and you can assemble it in 5 minutes flat, but it looks like crap, that's not really going to matter, is it? But
no, you're definitely not going to tell your friends about it. No. And sofas are a weird piece of furniture in themselves that people like to share and like to show people. You don't get that with a bed or a futon or even a dining table, really. But a sofa, it's a very personal purchase, and
Yeah.
It's as personal as it's a personal choice as a mattress, but you tend to have more people around to sit on your sofa and your mattress most of the time.
Yeah.
But, you know,
It's so
and
interesting.
it winds all the way back actually to working in the retailer that we were running on the high street and being there at weekends selling sofas on the shop floor to people, and they would decide what you could tell when they walked over to a sofa if they were going to buy it, because they would have seen it, love the look of it, go and stroke it, feel the material, and then slump back onto it as if to just reassure themselves they've made the right choice. But if you show them the same sofa in a different material that they don't like, they would go and perch on it and say, no, it's not for me, thanks. It's not comfortable, or it's not this, or it's not that. And people were making their decisions before they'd even sat down, which is a strange concept to get your head around.
That must have been invaluable, kind of having that, physical retail experience of seeing customers interact with similar products and seeing how customers work through that purchase decision in real life must be so invaluable when you go and then set up an e-commerce business
Yeah.
where you just can't see that. And yeah, you can collect data and you can do user surveys and that's all great, but there's got to be nothing like that experience of seeing someone interact with a product.
Yeah, that's it. And, the data will tell you what's happening, but it won't tell you why. And when you talk to people and see them using the product or see them in their home or ask them about it, or even just ask open-ended questions, then you find out why they've made those decisions and why it's important to them. And one of the things we did early on was go and see our customers who had bought our sofas and go into their front rooms and see the pieces. And, in our various iterations of breaks from COVID lockdowns, obviously. But we went on the deliveries of the first few. We didn't have a warehouse solution, so the staff were delivering them. We'd assembled them, and we noticed that lots of our customers have similar floor types, and that people were buying our Model 1 because you can store stuff underneath it. I never even thought about that until they said, yeah, that's why we bought it. And I just thought, well, shows what we know about our own product, hey?
I think there's that thing of never really assuming that like what your customers are thinking. Such an easy thing to fall into, I think, when you're in the bubble and you've invested all that time and effort and energy,
Yeah, and I think, an important thing to remember there is, no one cares. No one cares about yesterday's performance. No one cares about your product like you do. No one cares whether you spent 50 hours or 5,000 hours designing your logo. It doesn't matter. It's not important. You're only as good as your last delivery and your last customer experience, and that's it. And it can be disheartening or empowering, really, depending on how you look at it. And I try and have it as empowering rather than disheartening to think.
That's a really good way to think about it. Yeah, that's amazing. So that growth you kind of touched on it a little bit, you've had all that growth through a year of being in and out of lockdown, all the various restrictions with COVID. Growing that quickly must be, that's pretty tough anyway. To have that last year or in the last 12 months must have been doubly tough.
Yeah, and because we manufacture, right? So we make all of our own product, and running a manufacturing facility with all the COVID restrictions and trying to keep our people safe, that's our main priority, right? So our first priority commercially is to delight customers, and our main priority as a business is to make sure that everyone goes home safe. And that's so key. And we had to expand the factory space and put on different timings and pay for people to get taxis to work because they used to lift share, that kind of thing. So that's been a real challenge, and so is getting raw materials. And when raw materials are tight and supply is difficult, when you go and tell your supplier, next month I'd like double what you sent me last month, and they've only got a limited amount to spread around their customers, and they're looking at you thinking, these guys are either onto something or I'm about to go bust because my customer's not going to pay his bill next month. It's a real challenge, and being really open and communicating with your suppliers about the growth curve and what's important and how they can help. That's everything, especially at the height of it all last year when you had factory shutdowns. And,
Oh,
you know,
and whilst you're scaling up massively.
yeah, exactly. And you were trying to be like, yeah, go and buy that other machine. Don't worry, like we're good for it. Like go and get yourself a £500,000 CNC machine to help make more frames for us. We'll be around in 3 months' time, no problem. Yeah. And then doing all of that over the phone or on Zoom, so you can't even shake their hand. So, it's fun.
Oh man. And what's the future like? Like what that you've kind of gone up this massive kind of hill. What next? Like where do you go from there, and like how do you keep fueling that momentum? Because like what's the future like for Swyft?
We're going to stick in the UK. So first and foremost, like we're going to try and own our own backyards. It's a big market here. We've got a lot of space to grow. We have got more products in the pipeline. So we've got 3 models currently and a footstool. We've got a Model 4 launching in about 3 weeks' time, which is a sofa bed, which is really close to my heart because most sofa beds make awful sofas and even worse beds. So I'm really keen to be the first one that gets that right. So we're kind of going to go for a bit of range expansion, and then in the summer we move away from upholstery into some hard goods as well, accessory furniture. But same concept as Swyft, so we'll never sell anything that can't be delivered next day. We'll never sell anything that requires tools, and you always have 100 days to decide whether you like it or not. So it'll be a bit of range expansion, doubling down on where we're at, and we've got some cool stuff coming from our marketing team as well over the summer, which is going to be good. We're going to get out there and get offline and get into more traditional channels and try and spread the word.
Amazing. I just think it's such a great story. And thank you so much for kind of joining and talking through it. Obviously, where should someone go if they need a sofa, Keiran?
Well, they should go and find the one that they love the most. And if that happens to be ours, we're here to help. So they're just straight on our website, swifthome.com. But if you're not sure about it as well, we do have an amazing network of independent retailers that stock our product, and you can go and sit on it and feel it and talk to them, and they're the experts. So we've got After Noah in North London and One World in Fulham and various other ones all over the country as well. If just buying something online isn't right for you, then go and see them. And, if you don't like Swyft, then they've got plenty of others that they can help you talk through.
Amazing. One honest bit of purchasing advice there, Keiran.
Well, if we want to get people to the point where they love their sofa, right? And if that's not ours, then that's cool. We'll help them on that journey.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much, Keiran, and thanks to everyone tuning in. We'll see you next time.